Different throwing style.
And there, with that, we begin our first podcast of All the Right Movies. I'd like to thank my daughter, Miley, who some of you might remember from softball. If you watched our podcast there, she put that little intro together. And if you didn't guess, I gave her a bunch of pictures, told her to choose from them. And if you can't guess, she loves hockey and she loves Friday Night Lights. And she just watched Warrior for the first time in a while and really enjoyed that. So thanks to Miley. And funny thing, the last little picture there where I'm sitting there with that stupid ass smirk on my face, that was when I went to see the part 2 of the Nebraska movies they did. What was that? Day by Day.
Yeah.
And I went to the theater out there on 144th and Maple, and I was the only one in the damn theater. So I'm just sitting there in the middle seat with my popcorn and decided to take a selfie with nobody else in there. And what do you know, it came in handy later on. The gentleman to the right of me on my screen there is Aaron Rostovsky, also writes for CornNation. He was doing baseball while I was doing softball. Aaron, introduce yourself and say hi to everybody.
How's it going, everybody? If there's one thing I do just about as much as baseball, it's watch movies, so ready.
And this was I figured that out about Aaron a little while ago. So when this idea kind of popped into my head, I knew I was going to have to get him on early, if not first. Thankfully, he agreed to do this. Each week, I'm probably going to I'm going to try and find probably different people. Although you'll see some of the same people over and over, but we'll just see who likes which movies and has some free time, I guess. Let's just talk a little bit about what we're doing here. There was actually a comment that came in before. Let's see, where is it? From Jason Reeves, and it's a great question. So, are we watching the movie, or was I supposed to have watched it already like homework? Jason, you were supposed to have watched it already like homework. It came out in 1991. We'll get to that in a sec. But what we're going to do is we're going to assume you've seen the movies. We're going to talk about things like the plot, basic stuff, plot, our favorite scenes, our favorite lines, stuff like comedy, the comedy factor, unintentional or intentional, the quality of the sports scenes, which can also cross over into unintentional comedy. If anybody who saw Mystery Alaska watched Russell Crowe trying to skate, that was painful. The quality of the music. Hey, what are there adrenaline scenes? How good are they? Sports movies seem to almost have a montage. Think Rocky. That's my first great montage I can really remember as a kid. Just Gonna Fly Now, and then like the rewatchability factor. Are these movies you can just watch over and over again, and then we'll just break down, depending on the movie. We'll break down just different parts of it. So let's get started. The movie is Necessary Roughness. It came out in 1991. It was the 50th highest grossing movie of 1991 on a budget of $13.5 million, which, given the cast, I think a lot of it might have went to the actors. It doesn't look like there's not a lot of special effects there. and they just basically went down to North Texas and filmed it.
Just hired all the football players to come in for that 10-second scene.
Right. Oh, God, yeah. Boy, we're going to talk about that. The old prison scene. It grossed about $26,200,000. And I always thought 94 was one of the most incredible movie years ever. 91 was off the chain as well. The top three were Terminator 2, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Home Alone. But you also had, with Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans, another football movie, technically. What was that one called? I'm just blanking now. But you also had Point Break come out. There's about 10. The Parenthood came out, and I was thinking that was a winter release because I know it had to make more than $20 million. But that's the thing, is just you get the list for how much money it made in 91, and if it came out as a Christmas release, it wasn't going to stack up the bucks. But yeah, sometimes just go top grossing movies in 91 and you're going to go, holy crap, those were all in the same year. So let's talk about the plot a little bit to start. Aaron, you just watched this. Give us you're a movie producer, or you're a movie writer or whatever. Go make your pitch to the studio. Give it like 4 sentences. Go.
Man, so you got the biggest bunch of losers you've ever met in your life coming in that need to form a football team, and basically the SMU aftermath where they had to bring in all sorts of just random students instead of scholarship football players. So they come in and they've got quite the coaching staff to get their act together, and the rest, I guess, is history. They play all sorts of powerhouses like Kansas and Texas State. I forget where that.
Well, they actually I think their first opponent. I'm probably jumping into our trivia a little bit here, but their first opponent is Southwest Texas State University, and I thought that was just made up for the movie. No, that was an actual
it was a real
university at the time, and I'm like, who knew? Yeah, and they're wearing basically the North Texas uniforms. Like, they might have still been North Texas State in '91. They hadn't flipped to the University of North Texas yet. Now, Nebraska played in the regionals in softball a couple of years ago. Nebraska played their first game against North Texas, and I was sitting next to a guy from their student newspaper, and he's like, well, and they're the Mean Green, and they named him after Mean Joe Green. And I was like, really? Because he played there in the late 60s. Well, it turned out while he was there, might be a ring of truth to it as to how somebody started yelling Mean Green from the stands, like I guess after the defense made a big stop. And when Mean Joe was there, they only gave up, I think, about 1.9 yards a rush. And he got the name Mean Joe Green. But while he was there, they switched the name officially from the Eagles to the Mean Green. So while he might not have been directly responsible, I'm not sure if he doesn't go there, they're not going to that name anyway. What happened? Yeah, it was SMU. It actually was. They 100% did base it on SMU. And SMU's first team they brought back was like a student body team. Now, there's one thing where, that's the plot. Then they kick everybody off the team and then have tryouts from the student body. And the crazy thing to me was, and then Larry Miller did a wonderful job. He wasn't the dean. I can't remember his title, but he was like the next guy down in the hierarchy. And he just hates football. So he just wants to kick them all out of school. So they get their squad of 40 or 45 maybe, and then he kicks all but 17 of them out for grades. And this is one thing where I'm like, here's a little here's a little thing where one thing I want to rank is what is how just ridiculous is the plot. And I'm eventually going to have 5 little stars that look like him, but right now we are going to have ludicrous awards. Because this plot is just full on, absolutely 100% ludicrous. And
sure.
if we do a 1 to 5, when we get to that, this would be a 5 ludicrous ranking because, my goodness, 17 guys from the student body, they're not tying Kansas. I don't care how fired up they are because they got in a bar fight. They're not beating the number 1 team in the country. I mean, they're losing to a Division III team with a 1-9 record. They're losing to those guys 70-0. It would just first of all, they wouldn't finish the season. Am I right on that? You got 17 guys playing Division I football, and that's it. They're going Iron Man. Just a regular injury rate's going to finish you off by you're not going to have 11 guys in the field by the 3rd game.
That's why SMU didn't play the rest of their games that year.
Yeah, but funny thing, I think it took SMU about 24 years, something like that, before they had a winning record. Again.
Yeah, their first bowl game was 2000, so they were cut down
in 89, I believe. 88.
89 was the first season like that, and then it was 2003, I think, was their first bowl game. So
that would be right around there. And I remember one thing that something I heard, and do I know for a fact it's true? No, but history seems to prove it true, is that they did not realize that shutting them down for 2 years was going to destroy them for that long, and quietly made a deal that they're never going to put that on anybody again. Like a school that probably, they were good during that era too, but a school that probably got away with one, oh, praise Jesus, was Notre Dame under Lou Holtz, because that was a school that they didn't have everybody on. I mean, SMU had the entire team on the payroll, which then you had, because what happened was a guy got mad he wasn't starting and then just ratted him out, and that was the investigation. But but Notre Dame had one booster. I think she was sleeping with the tight end. She was paying all sorts of players. They got caught and then just basically gave them probation, and that, I think that's about the time Lou got shown the door. But yeah, based on SMU. But yeah, just ridiculous plot. And I just
it opens up with the.
Go ahead.
It opens up, with them getting caught a la SMU, so all the money going around, and so they're like, oh, that's the nil, the name, image, likeness now.
Yep, there you go.
And then the steroids. I'm like, oh, we got the nil. We just need the steroids to come back. That's all.
That's right. Yeah, they took care of steroids in the program. I mean, when I think college football movies, the first two that come to mind are this and the program. Two very different 100%. Movies. This clearly a comedy. The program and this and the program have two things in common. I think they both have so many plot lines going that I feel like they were about 30 something years ahead of their time, because they would just make perfect Netflix like 10 episode like miniseries, because there's just so much to cover and they're ramming a lot. Well, one thing we're about to do favorite scenes here. And this was a tough one because this movie's scenes are just, I mean, it's like a 45 seconds go, 35 seconds go. You have like Inglourious Bastards, which is basically about 6 really long scenes, complete opposite of that. So I've got some written down. Aaron, give me your favorite scenes, and I'll tell you if I've got them on the list or not, and then I'll throw in the other ones, and then we'll come up with a couple of favorites.
I'm going to go James Boardman stole my first pick up somewhere in there, where it was any scene with Kathy Ireland in her soccer shorts.
Yeah, those are soccer shorts. I love those. We all did.
But also, just the brawl, him coming up to flat top the first time, and
the bar
this
brawl.
Is my throwing hand, smack, and then this is just not even budging, and then the aftermath when the dean comes in and everyone's just sitting there acting like they're playing pool and just having a beer together, and they are facing away from him, and then they turn around and they're all just bashed and bloodied, and then those are probably.
I like how Bakula and Sinbad just for no reason go leaping in the air off the bar. And I didn't really see anybody else in the picture. It
was like all of a sudden someone showed up with AKs or something like that. They're jumping out of there. I'm like, guy, it's a brawl. Come on.
Right. Tell you what, before we start going down this, I see some comments are piling up, so let's pull a few out of here. There's James Boardman. The highlight of the movie is Kathy Ireland in her half shirt and shorty shorts. And while, unintentional comedy may have been watching her, try to look like they're kicking before they splice it into someone like
those edits are the worst edits I've ever seen in my life of any sports movie.
She can barely run up to the ball. Sinbad didn't strike me as, he's got the size, but always just kind of had the body that hadn't hit the gym in a few years. I didn't really.
The thing I love.
What's that?
The thing I love about this era of movies is sports movies. Is somehow everyone knows every person like within like a 500-mile radius what their eligibility is.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you missed one season of eligibility. Why don't you come join us? I'm like, how are you gonna know a guy that had that 10 years before what his eligibility is? But every single movie in this era has something like that.
Oh no, and Jason's like, hey, I'll be sure to pass that on. We've got a Miley Rocks. Please tell me she's not here. I don't think you meant it that way. Please tell me she's not here. I know what you meant, and I'll tell her. And you probably will be. I probably will be dragging Miley into a couple of these against her will. There's going to be some hockey movies in here, and I think I'd get killed if I didn't invite her in. Let's see what we got. Nice intro, and it didn't turn into or put me to sleep like Monday Night Therapy in the cornfield. You know what Monday Night Therapy in the cornfield does for me is I want to know who that gal is, even though I'm just getting a little hint of a hand and maybe a little bit of leg. That
she's hot.
She's hot. God, and are we going right back to 91 attitudes? right now. I mean, because 91 was still the 80s with just the purely sexist shit, like Kathy Ireland doing a slow-mo. Now, here's one thing where I noticed when I went to watch it, is the dirty trick they play on you now, where, you go in to stream it and you look and, hey, here it is, language, violence. It says nudity. And everybody's thinking Kathy Ireland. Well, guys, this was PG-13. The nudity is a bunch of football player ass. So if you do go to watch it based on listening tonight, no, you're not getting Kathy Ireland, but yeah, you're getting enough, as the comments above tell you. Minnie's in the house. We always love when she drops in. Minnie is eagerly hoping for a Blue Lagoon remake with Dylan. Minnie and I are like basically known as the two slobbering Dylan Raiola fans. There we go. 91, my graduation year. Minnie, that's Blue Lagoon's not a sports movie, so yeah, we won't be seeing Blue Lagoon here, guys. I saw somebody who was it? They really wanted Young Guns. I'm like, yeah, Young Guns. I mean, well, you can make a case for shooting as an Olympic event. Young Guns isn't a sports movie. Yeah, this is the downside. Here's James Borden. I couldn't find the movie for free, so I'm working off memory. But it is right now only like $3.99 on Amazon, and I don't know how that happens at all. This movie should always be streaming. Rank the Rocky movie workout montages. Hey, you don't know that's not going to happen in the future. Oh, here we go. Thank you, James. The Last Boy Scout. That was the one. That's what I was trying to think of with Bruce Willis. Yeah, which starts off with a running back, like one guy to beat, and then pulls a pistol out and plugs him. No, I don't think the NASCAR. I think the NASCAR movie. I thought that was before. I thought that came out like late, like a couple years after Top Gun, maybe like 88 or 89. Yeah, I played football. Like General played football. You're gonna hear that. What else we got? Andy, who is the painting behind you? That's probably a story for the soccer movies. It's a story for how I ended up with it, and that's crossed with my determination to find out who it was. It's a mystery Minnesota North Star wearing the number 15, and I looked up every North Star that ever wore 15, and none of them looked remotely like the guy. But I think I figured it out, and it's an Omaha connection, and we'll talk about that during one of the hockey movies. Let's see. By the North Texas naming thing, will they rename John's high school team the Fighting Shit Asses? Don't hold back, Fred. That's why you're here. Let's see. That Notre Dame booster, what was her name, asking for a friend? Well, that Notre Dame booster is probably about 75 now, so you might be a little disappointed at this point. Even Minnie, Kathy Ireland was the best. Whatever happened to her? My guess is she got too old to model. And I'm not trying to sound mean. I'm just, if that's your job, is looking good and young and hot, and you get older, not quite as hot. And she didn't, God bless her, but she didn't really have the acting chops to, take that as a career once the modeling was gone. Okay, that's a little mean, but I'm going to stand by it. Let's see. Highlander Gunn here. He was one of our regulars in softball. Good to have him aboard. Actually, Minnie wants to remake Youngblood with Dylan. You can bet Youngblood's going to get in there somewhere. It might take a couple years, but for those of you who don't know this, I've been for several years slowly doing articles on my top 50 sports movies of all time, and they're fun. They're fun if for nothing else than for people to violently disagree with me, and that's one of my favorite things about sports movies. But yeah,
would you take off like a 5-year hiatus and then came back with like 3 in a matter of a month or something like that?
Well, I never really, I think, went away for years, but there was years where maybe I did 1 or 2. Last summer I got going again, and and knocked out several, and I would like to do that again this summer. But I'm trying to keep this kind of separate from the rankings. Although maybe I'll throw it out there and just so people can get mad or happy or whatever. Oh wow, Fred Sacco, Kathy Ireland stalker, says Kathy Ireland still looks great. She was at a Nebraska Furniture Mart event a while back. I get the feeling if I ask, there's some hidden video that he probably took of her before security remove Fred, but no, that's great. All right, so here's what I had for like some of the best scenes, and we're not going to go too much into all of them, but number one, just that opening scene with Paul Blake training Bakula and sitting out there, and he's got his little spring-loaded dummy that he's hit, and it's wearing a number 88 jersey, which comes into play, and he's just firing piss missiles at it. Wally comes recruiting him a little later, and turns out Wally was Robert Loggia, who I'm just going to say right now is my favorite guy in the movie. He just has the best one-liners. He's just grumpy and pissed all the time. We'll talk about him and favorite lines more. But then we had the tryouts, which were pretty funny. You had the one where, like, here's the quarterback. When we'll go down the roster here in a minute, actually, too. The quarterback, Popke. You can just tell he's not worth a shit. But then Robert Loggia goes, "Hey, kid, show me the arm." And Popke goes, "No, throw the ball, dumbass." Then he fires one, like, I think he hits someone in the back of the head, hits one on the basketball rim, and Loggia gets off like, "Great, he sucks at two sports." Something like that. Well, then you have the first practices. You have Paul Blake going through the dorm is pretty funny to me because they're just all cracking on him for being old. He was actually pretty close. In the movie, he's 34. And in real life, when they filmed that, he was 37, and he's 37 in the day. Like, those days have ended. The 37-year-olds looked like they were approaching 40. That's a whole different thing in Hollywood now. You look at Tom Cruise, you look at Ralph Macchio. Ralph Macchio is now past the age that Pat Morita was in the original Karate Kid movies. Macchio is older than that Pat Morita. So this is a guy that kind of was, you're hitting your ruddy look in your late 30s, not your mid 60s like nowadays. And then the first game against with Sidney the Doberman barking at everybody, and then one of the weirdest coaching moves ever. It's like the quarterback's like, "We're running the same play over and over and getting killed," which is a negative. I don't think you want to do that if you've got 17 players. Let's make pounding the ball our offense. What the fuck? And then throws the bomb to Featherstone, nicknamed Stone Hands, and he drops it. And the decision, I mean, this game's already going to be a wipeout. And then he benches Scott Bakula, Hector Elizondo, the coach, benches Scott Bakula and goes with Popke. And somehow it only ends up 65-0. They were probably taking knees the entire second half. The bar fight that Aaron mentioned, or actually before the bar fight, we have the prison game. When the prisoners come to play. Then we have the bar fight with the number one team in the country, Texas State. and then the Kansas game, which they actually tie Kansas. In 91, I thought Kansas was, maybe they were just starting to get better again, because they were really good in 92. They were ranked when we played them with Frazier, and we whomped them, but they were ranked like 14th. So I figure maybe they were, made the deal in 89 or 90. I didn't check their records, but you're Kansas. I mean, you're not, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, but are you really taking money to put your team out there in a movie where they get tied by a team with 17 guys from the student body and a girl kicks a field goal to do it? And then one of your players knocks her on her ass after she kicks the field goal. And then she kicks him in the nuts and he goes down screaming and crying. I mean, Kansas, man, that's an odd marketing ploy. I can't picture that. I mean, yeah, everybody knows it's a movie, but if you're one of those guys on the down at that, trying to decide between Kansas and Kansas State, you're really gonna pick the school that made that appearance in a movie. After that, when this was one of my favorite, when Rig visits Coach Gennaro in the hospital, and it's Robert Loggia at his just finest. He thinks thought he had a heart attack, and it's just the funniest thing because it's just oh God, it's like he's like, "Quit talking to me like I'm dying." And he goes, I'm fine. They're just running some tests. They don't know what it is." "That's wonderful news, Ed." Oh, and he's like, "Oh, geez, here's my playbook." And he goes, I'll treasure it always. He's like, "I'm not bequeathing it to you. I'm loaning it to you." So that's some of Robert. If you can't tell it, I already said it. That Robert Loggia, I think, is the MVP of this movie. And then finally, the final game, Rig's speech. And anyway, the two I want to focus on here. Tell you what, let's go down the lineup first, because this is one of the things that really made this movie was just how they had a really fun group of players. And you got the quarterback, Paul Blake, 34 years old, number one high school recruit in the country, and then dad got sick, stayed on dad's farm. You've got a lot of these guys just have one name. there's a lot of like SEAL types on this team. There's Featherstone, and that he's played by Dwayne Davis, who is a veteran of football movies. I believe Dwayne Davis was in, and along with Andrew, was it Brynarski, or however you say his name? Those two were both. Let's see. Brynarski was in 3. He was in The Program. He was in this, and he was in Any Given Sunday. Dwayne Davis was in both this and The Program, so that was their second time. And then this one, he is a wide receiver and not a middle linebacker. And I'm like, that is, and he's the fastest guy on the team. And I'm like, that's just crazy. Where do you find a DK Metcalf like that, just running around not playing football? Let's see, he's about 6'4", probably 235, and running a 4.39.
Especially in the 90s, those weren't hanging around.
Yeah, they're not hanging around too much now, and it was nuts. And then you've got Jason Bateman as Edison. Now this was more on point as far as like the kind of player I thought they were going to get. You're stuck with a white running back who's probably about 5'9", 148 pounds, and then he basically goes for a touchdown in the practice scene, and then you don't see him again except for, you see him being a really bad student and having people take his tests, and then you see him sexually harassing Kathy Ireland at her tryout. So not Jason Bateman in this movie. Edison, not a nice guy. And then he has a fake punt for a touchdown in the final game.
I somehow missed him in the opening credits, and so I had no idea that was Jason Bateman the whole time.
Yeah.
I didn't even think it looked like him that much
until really the end. Pretty incredible cast. You got Samurai Hansen, the 5'10", 180-pound middle linebacker who just happens to be a black belt and likes to just kick the shit out of everyone and every so often. And then his buddy Sarge Wilkerson, who's kind of an asshole. He's the military crazy fullback, and the Republican Guard didn't have this many deserters and stuff like that, which was timely in '91. Lucy Draper, the kicker, Kathy Ireland, we covered her. Charlie Banks, a walk-on from the previous team, and the only guy that didn't get kicked off the team, and again, tiny white guy. And then for a utility player, I think he was a receiver and their punter. For some reason, he's a great punter, but can't kick a field goal to save his life.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were saying he was a rugby player, like the little Australian rugger, McKenzie. And then you had Manu Mana, played by Peter Tuiasu Sopu, who actually played some football. He was a replacement player for the Rams during the strike, 86 or 87. And then they signed him and cut him in 88. And so the football career didn't really take off, but he's got a football family. He is the cousin of Manu Tuiasu Sopu. I think won a Super Bowl or two with San Fran, maybe, and was an All-Pro a bunch of times. And then he's a second cousin to Marcus Tuiasu Sopu, who's the quarterback for Washington, who played in the league had probably 7 or 8 years. So probably started a few here and there, good backup. And then you had Popke, Show Me the Arm, and then you had these two weird-looking, Swedish twins, giant Swedish twins that just fought each other all the time. So that's a fun team.
Tuiasu Sopo, also in one of my other favorite sports movies, Basketball.
What's it? Basketball?
Oh yeah,
he was in that. He was in that.
Yeah, he was some big. I forget what his name was in there.
Get out of here!
Where he got super mad one time because they psyched him out and.
Right.
Just went crazy and was throwing guys through the hoop and then bashing their heads like a speed bag, I think, at one point.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, let's do this real quick. I just wanted to a couple of these get out of there. A couple of these scenes. I haven't figured out how to get video clips up on here yet. It'll happen. So right now I've just got some photos, and I just want to run you through a couple of the favorite scenes. One of them's the prison scene. So let's get that going here. And also, I mentioned in the lead-in article, we did have a very famous Nebraska Cornhusker here. So
about this. Don't worry, Wally. He and Elias assured me that we're dealing with real sportsmen.
Roger Craig. Here come the Cowboys. Too-tall Jones, Dorsett.
How you do? As loyal Armadillo fans, my colleagues and I are pleased to be able to help you in your time of need, and we look forward to a spirited workout. Gentlemen, this is your home field, so please take the ball.
Dick Butkus seems so nice there.
All right, Dillos, let's get it on! Yeah!
There's Jim Kelly.
I'm gonna dribble that pinhead. Blue 32! Hey guys, I want you to know something. I believe you're all innocent. I really mean that. I feel a lot of love on this field today. Hey, come on, you're offside. You know, I usually play tennis instead of football.
Jason Bateman getting his ass kicked.
What are you in for, anyway? Computer fraud.
Anyway, there's that. I hope that sound came up a little good. It wasn't the best, but it was the only recording I could find. There's just so much going on in that scene. One question that somebody asked me was like, "What the hell's Evander Holyfield doing on that team?" Here, real quick. Here's the. I'll just name off. Here's who's on that prison team: is Dick Butkus, Ed Too Tall Jones, Randy White. Is that Earl Campbell? I don't think it was Earl Campbell.
Yeah.
Ben Davidson, Tony Dorsett, Jim Kelly, Jerry Rice, Herschel Walker, Evander Holyfield, whose son actually did play football. He was a running back at Georgia, pretty good one. And then the first guy popped up there, Roger Craig, your Cornhusker. And that was one of the reasons I chose the movie. It's like, well, I'm going to do college football, and holy shit, I forgot that Roger Craig was in that. So that definitely put that to the top. But yeah, that was just an amazing thing. And that was the picture of Ben Davidson holding Jason Bateman up there. And he's like, what are you, or Scott Bakula up there. He was like, what are you in for anyway? Computer fraud. Tell us your thoughts on that scene, Aaron.
Oh yeah, that Sinbad just telling everyone how he thinks they're all.
Oh God,
I believe you all are innocent. They're all having a good time.
That's just absolutely
my favorite part there.
That still kills. Sinbad couldn't play a lick of football, I don't think, but boy, did he just play that part just wonderfully. I mean, I still remember, was it when him and Robert Loggia together, and Loggia's giving him the, I want you to kill, I want you to eat raw meat, I want you to murder everyone. And also, here comes Sinbad. He's on the blocking sled. And Sinbad comes in, just runs the blocking sled, sends Loggia flying through the air, lands on his back, then takes his helmet on. What was Sinbad's name in the movie?
Oh gosh, I just had him up here.
I just blank. Yeah, I get old. I blank a lot. But anyway, he just leans over him and he's like,
Andre,
so like his name, like, what's that?
Andre Krim.
Andre. He goes, yeah, Andre doesn't eat raw meat because Andre is a vegetarian. And Loggia's laying on the ground, half conscious, goes, eat whatever the hell you want, Andre. But yeah, that prison scene, I mean, you just heard the theater was just overjoyed. And the prisoners actually show up again at the game. For some reason, they decided, let's bring these guys out of prison to a college campus to just basically beat the living shit out of a football team. And then the way we make them stop is fire a gun in the air and like dogs like, And then they thought after, when they've just probably engaged in behavior that probably got them all some time in the hole or added to their sentence, they said, "Hey, let's bring him to the game." But they sit him in front of the Texas State fans because they all start cheering. All these guys said, "Hey, shut up, sit down, sit down, down," and then everybody just shuts the hell up. And then my other favorite one, and I'm going to play this one too because this is a speech. I've used it for so many different reasons over the years, for so many different coaches, and it is the Wally Riggendorf fire them up halftime speech when I think somehow they're only getting beat by the number one team in the country, 21-0, and he's infuriated. And I'm like, yeah, good for him, because I would have been like, hey, shit, I thought they were going to hit 70 by halftime. I'm actually pretty happy, guys. But it's Robert Loja's time to shine. He wore his suit to the game. He's coaching for Ed, who turns out only has it's not a heart attack, it's just indigestion. But he realized he's trying to be like Ed, and it's not working. And we are off and rolling with.
Now, let's analyze what's been working for us. Not a goddamn thing's been working for us. Like this goddamn suit doesn't work for me. And this stinking tie, and this goddamn shirt, it doesn't work for me. You know how to play winning hard-nosed football? You play football like a Gennaro played football. A guy who gave his life for this football team.
Gave his
He was
life.
140-pound halfback, and he played like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. And that's the way you gotta do it. You go out there, you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks.
In the annals of great locker room speeches, I put that right up there with Herb Brooks and Miracle, Al Pacino on Any Given Sunday, and God, and what's my other one? It'll come to me, but that's right up there with them. It's funnier than hell, but if you're in that locker room, you're hitting the second half, just ready to beat the brakes off anybody in front of you. Aaron, tell me who you think of when you think of a 140-pound fullback that, I don't know, I'll assume he played like a rampaging beast. Who is our 140-pound fullback, even though I think it was 155? Little Frankie Solich. Yeah, little Frankie. At that movie, that's the first thing I thought of was Frank Solich. And I don't know that Frank was quite the success of the head coach, but we won't relitigate that now. That'll send the comments into overdrive. Tell you what, comments are coming in again. Let's see where we are. Other gun.
Shitting down their neck and then the let us pray is
Fred.
Probably my two favorite back-to-back lines.
What's that?
The shit down their necks and then let us pray are probably my favorite two back-to-back lines in the whole movie.
A theater going from fired up to laughing their ass off. Let us pray. Yeah, Fred, I hear Jerry Sandusky had a prison scene or two. Now, Fred, let's not go there. Aren't the Tuiasu part of Roman Reigns' bloodline too? Maybe. That's all Samoan. That very well could be. Let's see. Greg. Here's my playbook: is like John telling Greg that CornNation is his, then yanking it away. For those of us that watch all the pods. Let's see. Oh, for fuck's sake! This is the moment my daughter chooses to call about family wedding invites. Somebody come shoot me in the head, please, Jason. I feel your pain. That is a sad story. We hope you make it back to us. And wasn't that game played in the driving rain? Yeah, Kansas game, driving rain. Maybe that's their excuse. It's okay because it was a driving rainstorm.
So the thing about this movie that I noticed is that every scene, everyone's either sweaty as hell or it's raining its ass off. So everyone's just drenched all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that 100%. Here's a good one from Highlander. If you grow up in Alabama, you're familiar with the Junction Boys. I didn't grow up in Alabama, and I'm familiar with the Junction Boys. I don't know if that was a good little HBO movie. It probably won't make it on here, but it's got some scenes I really liked. I thought Tom Berenger was fantastic in that. Minnie's not lying here. One of the best parts of this movie are the nicknames. Let's see what else we got here. Driving Rain. Here's my playbook. Yes. Oh, now here's something I did not know. I'm just going to assume it's true. Is Harley Jane Kozak is from Lincoln. She graduated from Lincoln East, and let let's just talk about her for a sec because I'm going to try and get through everybody in the cast. Harley Jane Kozak. I'm telling you what, people are talking Kathy Ireland. Not that she wasn't very attractive, but Harley Jane. Oh my God, she was just smoking hot, and she had this run like late '80s, early '90s. She was in what Parenthood, Arachnophobia, the underrated Arachnophobia with her and Jeff Daniels, and then she was
When Harry
also
Met Sally.
what's that? Yes, she was
When
in
Harry
Parenthood.
Met Sally.
She was in that, and then in one of my it won't make it into best sports movies of all time, but boy, it's not because it wasn't rewatchable. Was Side Out with C. Thomas Howell, Peter Horton, and wearing a lot of beach attire, Courtney Thorne Smith. Back when that was the '80s and up probably through the early mid '90s was they were just going to put all the sex and all the nudity and at least in the bathing suits on screen all the time. And then I think Harvey Weinstein happened later, and also I think like then all of a sudden porn was something you get on your phone, not wearing dark glasses in a dirty bookstore, and so the need to get the the sex from the films wasn't as much. And also I think the women just kind of started standing up for themselves a little more. Like, I'm not doing this, enough's enough. But yeah, Harley Jane Kozak, man, and wonderful actress. I always figured one of the biggest cases of outkicking your damn coverage was Rick Moranis having her for a wife in Parenthood. I don't care if Rick Moranis is a billionaire. That was just like, okay, you better stop acting. And he was behaving like an ass at times too. It's like, okay, you're married to Harley Jane Kozak and you're behaving like a jerk. I mean, this was what who's the director who's always lately that always having the hot chicks. What was it? Shit, had the pregnancy one with God, I'm just I'm absolutely blanking on names.
Judd,
like Judd Apatow.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was like that was just Judd Apatow before his time in Parenthood with Rick Moranis and Harley Jane Kozak together. That only happens in our imaginations. Let's see. Well, we already named all the players. Yeah, here you go, Fred. Yeah, I don't think anybody in the state of Nebraska will fight you on that. Reason 1,264, the NFL Hall of Fame is bullshit. Roger Craig's still not in it. Nonsense. I agree. Longest Yard, great movie, not to be confused with our former head coach's screen name on Plenty of Fish, The Longest Yard. God almighty. All right. Yep, fighting Frankie and the weights in his underwear to make him look larger. Absolutely. Better fullback, Judd Davies or Judd Apatow. Those might be the only two Judds I could pop at the top of my head if my brain was working. Well, anyway, let's see. That covers our scenes. Let's talk about some of our favorite lines from the movie. What do you remember, the ones that crack you up, Aaron?
The one where I probably laughed out loud the loudest to myself, even though I was just watching it by myself, was at least we have home field advantage, and then the Alamo was a home field. And
that was Rig, right?
Yep.
I think that was Riggendorf.
And then the cheesiest is definitely Welcome to Football when Kathy Ireland.
Oh God, that's the unintentional comedy. It's like, okay, you're trying to be funny. It's the dumbest line in the movie, and therefore it was actually kind of funny.
The guy that wrote that wrote it down and then just
went theater. What's that? Sorry, I was talking over you. What's that?
So the guy that wrote that probably wrote that down and then just sat back in his chair and nodding like, yeah, I did that.
Killed it. What else?
I just lost it.
That's right.
Why don't you go bang a kangaroo?
Yeah.
When they were talking to the Australian guy.
Well, this is where they see that Robert Loja just killed it, because Rig was just coming up with the one-liners left and right. Well, I also love the one where he's still going with, he thinks Gennaro's like on his deathbed and tells him before that game, I don't want to put any undue pressure on you guys, but Coach Gennaro's last words were, win or I'll die. Oh yeah, not much of a crowd. Well, at least we have home field. The Alamo is the home field, 100%. See, I'm just looking for rig stuff here. Yeah, eat whatever the hell you want, Andre.
You're the big O, I'm the little B.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. And you can tell he's really hurt by all that too. It was like, and then when like Larry Miller, and he was a stand-up comic at the time that hit it for a few movies. Like he was in Pretty Woman, and I thought for me got the biggest laugh of the movie when Richard Gere comes in and it's like, first he goes like, well, here's what she's going to need. She got mistreated somewhere else, so she's going to need we're going to need a lot of sucking up. And he looks at Gere and goes, you're not just a handsome man, but a powerful man too. No, not me, you idiot. Her. and then, oh God, was it
yeah, that guy was a great
he goes like, well,
villain.
Yeah, and Gere said we need sucking up. And he goes, well, sir, not only have you come to the right store, but if I may add, the right city in Hollywood. And then he was just wonderful as the smarmy, like, I don't know, students or faculty or something. And he's sitting there watching the games, and Ed Gennaro goes, Dean Elias, for someone who hates football, you sure spend a lot of time watching the sport. And he has the best delivery where he goes like, eternal vigilance is the price of integrity, Coach Gennaro. And then Wally goes, what an asshole. Just straight into the point. Oh, and this was one of my personal favorites. Is like Wally's just down on his knees, like bitching because they're getting murdered, and he's like, "Get up, Wally! People are watching. Not many, but they're watching." He's like, "If this wasn't friggin' AstroTurf, I'd dig a grave for myself." Let's see, found the quarterback. Oh yeah, Ed again. What happened? Who missed their assignment? Wally. Everybody missed their goddamn assignment. And you're always going to have moments like that as a coach, but yeah, I just loved how Rig wouldn't hold back. But yeah, this was a movie with a lot of good stuff, and even the cheesy one. You got, like you said, you got a few cheesy ones that some guy really thought he licked it, and they probably said, "All right, thanks. Here's your check for the day, and go on home. We're done with you." Now, Rob Schneider also was killing it up in the booth there. He irritates the shit out of a lot of people. But some of his lines up there, like, now, how could the ref call that? I mean, it was a clean kick to the face mask. Stuff like that. Go.
That was my favorite of his ones. The
clean
kick to the face.
Well, there was like Sargi Fumbleito Wilkinson, fumble the ball. and he's actually on the cast list. This poor guy is Sargi Fumbleino Wilkinson as his name in IMDb. But I'd say, yeah, anybody wants to throw up a few of their comments in their favorite lines in the comments, we'll go ahead and read those. We don't want to keep you here all night, so we're going to kind of move it along. Let's see. So let's talk about just how this movie ranks in some areas. Let's just start with the music. What'd you think of the music?
Oh, classic late 80s, early 90s slow electric guitar.
Yep. But then it has a dun, 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 like theme, and I'm like, and they it starts the movie. And I was like, hey, that theme's a banger. That's kind of a fire. It fires you up a little. Well, there's a reason for that. Written by Bill Conti, who wrote the theme from Rocky. and I'm like, I saw that, and I'm like, well, of course it is, because that absolutely sounds like something out of a Rocky type movie. But yeah, I did like the music. Yeah, and that they were playing that Texas Plains guitar, weren't they? A lot, that kind of twang going. That they'd really amp it up in Friday Night Lights. But that was a good catch by you. They 100% did that. Okay, the comedy. This is a comedy, so of course there's funny stuff all over the place. Like we've gone over a lot of that. Now, unintentional comedy. I think we already talked about was probably number one. Poor Kathy Ireland. but that was the most. Yeah, I mean, I get it. The editors. I picture the editor going, "Come on, man, you can't do this. She can barely run 2 steps I'm worried she's going to miss the ball or trip or something. That was
When they'd
then all of a
edit
sudden
as she stopped. She'd run up to the ball,
Yeah.
stop, and then all of a sudden they'd edit a leg just kicking it out of nowhere. And I'm like,
boom,
okay, guys.
40 yards. How far was that? 40 yards. I think that was Brian Narski. How long? 40 yards. And what other what's some other unintentional comedy that probably the bad cut maybe?
I don't know. They were trying to make Bakula like the big kind of redneck working out on the farm and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
But they had him in there as the denim budget for this movie for him was
my God.
insane.
I mean, he is
that was probably it was the guys for the prison and then Scott Bakula's denim budget. Those are the two biggest. It would have been like a $500,000 movie without those two things.
Yeah.
You
I
had
had
the shirt, the pants, shirt, pants, coat, everything but that.
He was just jean jacketing all over the place. That's correct. Now, the one thing I did like about Bakula, let's go ahead and just jump into the quality of the sports scenes. Not the greatest, not too awful, but like a couple of them hit. When he hits Featherstone for that touchdown against Texas State at the end, there's some really nice camera shots in this movie that I'd forgotten about or just didn't appreciate at the time. And that's just a beautiful shot that's like NFL films quality, ball coming down out of the sky. And then just, you can tell that Dwayne Davis is an athlete because he runs in that end zone and you can see this is a guy who they're not having to do him run him in slow motion all the time, even though that one is kind of like they had to do with Wesley Snipes, I guess, in Major League. I guess Wesley Snipes was just athletically a disaster, just had the worst running stride at full speed, and he couldn't really throw a baseball either. So they always had to they couldn't have him throwing the ball, and then every time he ran in Major League was slow motion. But you could tell Dwayne Davis played some sports, and that was a really cool shot. And I here's the thing is I thought Bakula to me looked like an athlete. Like he had a pretty solid throwing motion.
I agree. He looked like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
moved in the pocket fairly well.
I thought it would have been great to have him as like an old quarterback coach for Jonathan Moxon and Varsity Blues because that was another Moxon, the kid that played Moxon. He had a hell of a throwing motion. I know he wasn't like bombing him 50 yards from a sitting position like they had him do from the bench, but you could tell that a lot of those throws were his. And I'd say the same for Bakula. Bakula absolutely knew what he was doing. Some of the others, not so much. Bateman skittered. If that was actually Bateman running at those times, he skittered around pretty well. He looked like he had some athleticism. And then Tuiasu Sopu, he's one of those who was that? It was a few years back, and we had that center that I called Gimli all the time, the dwarf, because he was 5'10", 270.
Oh yeah,
Caputo, yeah, Mike Caputo. And Tuiasu Sopu was kind of like that. Yeah, I bet he's not. Just watching him stand next to people, I bet he's not 6 feet. And he was easily over 300 pounds. He was actually pretty. I thought he did some good acting. You watch his facial expressions and scenes where he's just reacting. He's really good. And I just love that time. And another cheesy line, but he's so sincere. It's like he will not touch you. And that was
also
one thing.
Unintentional comedy for him. On that, I think it was on the pass to Stonehands. Bakula's scrambling around, and Tuiasu Sopo lays out a dude and is on top of him on the ground. And then half a second later, it flashes the other direction, and there's someone coming behind Bakula, and all of a sudden Tuiasu Sopo's laying him out too. He was there's 3 Tuiasu Sopos all of a sudden running around blocking for him.
Right. Well, there's a scene in that final play, or next to final play, in the final game, the third down play where he throws incomplete. Here's Flat Top, and you watch the snap and him dropping back.
Hey, he goes straight back.
Flat Top's 5 yards back in coverage, and then he lets it go, and Flat Top's just steamrolling him again. There's some goofy stuff in that last game. I think Flat Top, depending on if he had all the sacks or not, had 6 sacks in the first half.
Oh yeah.
You see 4 of them, but then after the second one, you go, and that's 4 sacks so far. And I'm just well, that's just,
yeah, that kid owns every record in the book.
And he's coming up the middle, so then you have to question. You really had to question Manu Manu at that point.
Yeah, what was Tuiasu Sopo doing, man?
Yeah, it's dude, he will not touch you. He's well, geez, you let him touch me about 15 times already. If you talk about all the hits that he nailed him after he let go, I'm sure that like Paul Blake's final year playing, because he developed CTE that offseason after.
Oh yeah, for sure.
After the beating flat top put on him.
Yeah, going straight into that concrete turf too.
Right. Let's see. I think I wrote down a few things about that final game. This is 1991, and Flat Top makes Blake call the coin toss, and he loses it. So Flat Top goes, "We'll receive." That was just automatic. You always received. And then I remember playing the video games back then. Well, screw it. I want to give them the ball and see if I can get a stop. And you watch that now, there's a lot of, or depending on the win, there's like, hey, we want the choice in the second half. And so, yeah, but that was back, I think, the final days of we'll take the ball. Yeah, Flat Top 4 sacks in the first half or 6. They're up 21-0 at halftime. Texas State is. I wanted to see that Texas State locker room, because I bet you Robert Loggia, nothing. I bet that coach was absolutely going out of his freaking mind. It's like 21-0. These guys are 0-9. They've only got 17 guys. I just imagine that guy just like knocking over the water jugs and throwing helmets at him and just losing his mind. Now the deep thing. I saw some inspiration from a couple other movies. Let's see. I can't even read my own writing. In the prison game, I saw like the longest yard in the final game, I'm sorry. There's like the longest yard there, even though he ends up passing it. He does like the longest yard. It's a fake field goal, not a set play, but rolls all the way out to the right, and whoops, has to come all the way back to the left with somebody pursuing him. And then it goes to a shout out to North Dallas 40, where Pete Gent, or it wasn't Pete Gent in the movie, is Peter Elliott, but Nick Nolte watches the guy in for Nick Nolte. They shoot. He has like a torn hamstring, and they shoot up his hamstring. Like that's gonna help. But anyway, the hamstring blows completely, and he starts doing that one-legged hamstring hop that a lot of us has done. And then they just destroy his face. Like the mask goes flying up, and then he's taped up like Quasimodo after the game. Peter Tuiasu Sopu, Manu, like just destroys Flat Top, and it's just, and they said, let's do this like North Dallas 40, because that helmet goes flying, and if you watch, blood is just flying out of him too after that hit. I think he had blood packs in his mouth and up his nose. Ooh, Jameson time, huh?
So many asked.
Well done. But yeah, that to me then is like, yeah, because they had to go. That was the go for 2 play. But yeah, I loved it. North Dallas 40 and longest yard all in the same play. I like it when the people making the movie know sports, because it's really glaringly obvious when they don't. Like when they're making Last Boy Scout, and Damon Wayans, like, after like throwing something and breaking like a former teammate's nose hanging out at a pool the morning after a party, yells, "Best arm in the National League." And it's like, oh, come on, man, the National League. But yeah, let's see. That covers the quality. What else we got here? Okay, adrenaline scenes. I'm pumped up for that. I'm pumped up in the second half of that final game a little. It's like, because now the jokes are kind of, well, after Eric Samurai Nelson, they've caught up to 21-14, and Samurai figures the thing he needs to go right there is rack up about 30 or 45 yards in penalties when they need a stop and to get the ball back. Now it's hilarious, and it's also the great scene by the ref who's going like, ninjutsu axe handle number 57, side samurai sword kick on number screw it, 15 yards. Like, I know things might have been a little looser in 91, but how is he not getting tossed the hell out of the state, let alone the game after that? Just think what a scene like that, if it really happened today in the era of TikTok and YouTube, it would just be the video of the year. I mean, look who became famous in the last couple of days here is the hot Tui girl. Have you seen her yet?
Huh.
So a guy's going around in the street, and here's just really cute. Has a little southern drawl to her, and her cute buddy. It's like, hey, when it's time to go to bed with your boy, what's your go-to move? And she goes, you just got to go hot Tui and spit on that thing. Dances up. that thing is like in so many videos right now, and that was just nothing. Like, you know, it's funny and she's cute, but Eric Samurai Nelson goes on the warpath like that in an actual game. He's never going to play in another college game, but he might make enough money in the next 2 months so he never has to work again anyway. But yeah, that adrenaline. I was kind of fired up for the last drive. You have the cheesy monologue by Bakula. I promise. I know you're hurting, but I promise you, when this is over, you won't feel any pain. And yeah, so that's about it. Where are we at? Yeah, we're on the hour mark, so we can start wrapping a little. Tell you what, I have some trivia. Let me go through some trivia, and then we'll roll with the comments. Here it is. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this earlier. It's based on the SMU scandal, and then their first team back was basically a team that they, a walk-on team. It was filmed at North Texas State. They're wearing the mean green jerseys. Yeah, there's one. First game, Southwest Texas State University. I don't know how many times I've watched this movie over the years, and never knew that was the Bobcats were an actual team. And I think they're the ones, because they're the same colors, they changed to Texas State.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Dwayne Davis and Andrew Baranowski were both in this in the program together. I'm not forgetting anything. Those are probably the top two college football movies, right?
Those are, yeah, definitely the first ones that come to my brain.
Yeah, and I really couldn't think of anything else. But like I said, maybe it's more of a docudrama, but Junction Boys. But yeah, those
We Are
Marshall.
Marshall.
What's that? We Are Marshall.
Like okay, We Are good. Marshall.
We Are Marshall. That's in my top 50. I actually would I get to my reviews of We Are Marshall, I'm throwing in Brian's song, and it's just going to be one big article called "Crying at Football," because that is all I do.
From the Waterboys College.
What's
Can't
that?
forget about the Waterboys College.
Oh, true. You know what? Absolutely. And I think I've already done. I may have already done the Waterboy, but yeah, there you go. And yeah, there's no South. What was that? What were they? Southwest Louisiana State or something?
Gosh, yeah, something. Were they like the mud?
They were the Mud Dogs. I think they were the Mud Dogs. See, here's the thing: is when I do that, I'll actually research it. But But yeah, still Roger Craig's in this one. I did not make a mistake leaving. But yeah, absolutely, the Waterboy should be on there. What else we got? Oh, here's a funny thing I found out about Hector Elizondo, who played Coach Ed Gennaro, and they have the scene, where Rig brings them over to check out Lucy, and she bombs one, and then he's like, hey, that went pretty far, about 40 yards. Well, yeah, no, wrong gender, Wally. It doesn't want anything to do with a girl on the team. Well, I guess he was in a show, Last Man Standing, for years, and on Last Man Standing, there was a girl in there that was going to become a kicker, and he was against that, a soccer player. And so, yeah, Hector Elizondo, Title IX, enemy of Title IX, trying to keep the women down. Bad guy, Hector Elizondo. Yeah, see, I still feel like this one could have been like an 8-10 episode series. And each week, they have a game each week. And then you get a lot more of Rob Schneider up there cracking jokes in the booth. And I still like the one where I think they just lost another one, and he just like covers the mic and goes, shit! And feedback goes off. One of those things was rewatchability. I mean, this is one where I feel you could, if it's on, you're in. I feel like, because like we said, there's always something. It's one crack scene to another, just nonstop. You can jump in the middle of it, and you're off and running.
Yeah, if you accidentally turn it on, you're there for the rest of the time.
Like, the only thing I really describe as a slow scene is when Bakula goes over to hang out with Harley Jane Kozak, but Harley Jane Kozak's on the screen, so you're still dialed in. Yeah, I always thought that was like some of the most amazing movie stalking I'd ever seen. Is she's still got a crush on him from the like 17 years before, whatever it was.
That was wild.
And I'm telling you what, I'm 100% like this with women. He's oblivious to it all. He's like, what? This is about a grudge? Scott, even, man, it's like, come on, Paul, even I can tell she's hitting on you. Yeah, at least. Yeah, she's not talking about a grudge. She's like, I cut your picture out of the newspapers. That's not a grudge, Paul. that's like it's a good thing it didn't, she wasn't out there on the farm like, killing your pigs or whatever. Yeah, rewatch. Oh, and then one thing I wanted to talk about too is montages. This one has a montage, and I feel like I think it only really has the one, and I feel it kind of stands alone because it's a montage of just them losing, getting their ass kicked. I mean, that's where Rig is going with this. I dig myself a grave. Name another montage where the montage is just them, and it's the only montage in the movie, just getting their dicks handed to them.
The montage of sadness, basically.
What's that?
Just the montage of sadness, basically. Unlike most movies, you're getting pumped.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts if you ask me. Tell you what, let's see. Let me see if I got anything else here. Hector Elizondo, a couple more cast members here. Hector Elizondo did most of his stuff on TV, but then he hits it big, like Larry Miller. He hits it big in Pretty Woman, and then they end up in this together. So hey, the Necessary Roughness with its Pretty Woman connection there. And then he was on a show that I just loved. It ended up like starting, I think, at the same time as ER, and got lost in the ER boom. But it was Chicago Hope, and Hector Elizondo like ran the hospital. Mandy Patinkin was in it as this like world-renowned heart surgeon who was just a complete dick to everybody, and his dickishness was just hilarious. Peter Berg, who directed Friday Night Lights, a bunch of other big movies, played a hockey playing heart surgeon in that. And then, but yeah, Elizondo, he was kind of a name at the time. Let's see, we talked about Harley Jane Kozak and Larry Miller, Robert Loggia and Mr. Comedy Gold in this. I just remembered him first time I saw him was Officer and a Gentleman, and just one of the strangest scenes where Zach Mayo, played by Richard Gere, you see they're in a crappy hotel room. He's getting ready to head off to officer, training, naval officer training school, and his dad, for a gift, brought a couple of hookers over to their room, and they enjoyed the hookers in the same room together. I can't think of anything I'd rather less do with my dad than that was. So, and Robert Loggia's running around with just one of those, in his boxers and his hands down his pants. He can't be more disgusting. and he's got one of those just like rock hard beer guts. The ones where it's like, hey, the guy's got a gut, but it just doesn't move. You get the feeling if you
the power gut.
Yeah, it's just going to make a drum sound. But he's just a treasure. This is my favorite Robert Loggia performance. It's a comedy, and he's playing it straight, which always makes it funnier if it's written right.
Before we
sure
bury Larry Miller, I will say this is not even my favorite Larry Miller movie from 1991.
What was that?
Love Suburban Commando.
What?
Did you watch that? Suburban Commando?
I did, but I didn't. I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, I think he's like the evil guy in that one too, if I remember right. It's been a while.
Hey,
Hulk Hogan and the Hulkster. And who's the other guy in that movie? God.
Shit. I just can't remember. I can cheat and look it up. Yeah. Hey, everybody out there, raise your hands if you thought you were going to get a Suburban Commando reference tonight. Fucking nailed it.
My work here is done.
One quick thing about Scott Bakula. After this movie, and he still went on to have success. Like I think he was like middle of this Quantum Leap run here. And I thought this is a guy who's going to, not necessarily on the Harrison Ford, Tom Cruise scale, but I thought this is a leading man. This is a guy who can carry a movie for you. He's good looking guy. He's looking a little older, which absolutely kills. Can play dead serious, can play comedy. He has all the tools in the drawer. And I get what he went back to where I wrote him down here. I was trying to write. There shows that like he ended up going on a long, like his NCIS New Orleans lasted like 4 years longer than Quantum Leap. And I always feel like everybody remembers him for Quantum Leap to start. We talked about Loggia. We talked about Tuyasu Sopu. And then, Andrew Bryniarski. Andrew Bryniarski is how it looks like it's pronounced. I always called him like Baron Arski or something. But he is, I think, he gets the like triple play of football movies, being in Necessary Roughness, The Program, and Any Given Sunday. And he just he was what we'll talk about it more when we get to The Program, you know, however long that takes. He was fantastic in The Program. He is doing some serious acting in The Program, and not just like, you know, the psycho on steroids, but there's like some heart-wrenching stuff there. Well, he got back on the roids at the end, makes the big play, and Khan comes over and just like grabs his helmet and just looks into his eyes, and you can just see like his nostrils flaring and eyes big, and then and Khan just stares at him. You just see him like kind of tear up a little and hang his head because he knows he's busted, and then Khan's just like, nah, get out of here. But anyway, it was fun seeing him in this. Let's see, I think that might be, I got Harley Jane, I got Larry. Yep, the cast went a little deeper in that, but that's really a pretty heavy cast. When I saw $13.5 million that cost in '91, I'm thinking a lot of that was the salaries, because you had a lot of name guys in there who weren't showing up, you know, for 50 grand, I think. What else did I have? Roughness, Any Given Sunday. I hit the trivia. Yeah, Bill Conti with the music.
One thing that
I just wrote montage ass kicking. What's that? Go ahead.
One thing that like they never do today anymore is when Jason Bateman's getting that grade back on that big test, is where they do the whole slam it up on the board and everyone can see everyone's exams.
Right.
Oh man, kids today would never. It'd be a riot.
There's like one of many things Starship Troopers missed in the future, because they had like the big board there where you go and plug it up, and I just remember it was like the main dude had the Casper Van Dien, and what's his name, Doogie Howser just throws his like 26th grade final up on the board, and like, first of all, it's like, what are you doing at graduation? You know, you're not graduating if you got a 26 on your like geometry final or whatever the hell that was. But yeah, you don't see the scores up for everybody anymore. I remember in college they did that sometime. I remember there was one test, you know, kids, if you're watching, definitely don't do this at home. I took a statistics class, and that was always my wheelhouse. And I went into the final knowing I only needed a 59 to get an A for the class, because I'd gotten like 98 and 99 on the first two. And so I think there's like, and of course my finals on Friday morning of finals week, which means the campus is all but deserted. And there were about 6 or 7 of us left in the house I was in. So naturally I stay up drinking to like 4:30, go to bed, wake up at 6:30 and hoof it over and to take this final I didn't really study for. And I felt good enough about it, but I was like, man, I might have cut that a little closer than I was planning on. Went to the board, and sure enough, I'm going like 66. Woo! And then the professor sticks his head out in the hall and just goes, "You." And I'm like, I still get the A. He's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "And he's like, "You're the last goddamned one." Yeah, he said, he was yelling at me. He's like, yeah, after that, he goes, "It is going to be a new rule that you have to pass the final to get an A." And I'm like, there you go, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I left my mark. It's funny. When you said that, I was just thinking of like that, that walk of shame to the grade board, and then wow, I made it. Like, the thing was, it's like a little worse. It was like, well, shit, I went from a 4.0 to a 3.5 in that class. It's not going to be the end of the world. And a life lesson about taking finals on 2 hours sleep, no matter, how much you think you know the material. I think that might be, I got all them. Let's see. Andre's vegetarian. Oh, probably one of my favorite Larry Miller lines in there that kind of fell away, because not only is he just a dick that hates football players, he is openly hitting on Harley Jane Kozak. He's a creep, and he's just an absolute creep. And she's just playing perfect, getting grossed out by him. Oh God, And there's one time where he starts leaning toward her and goes like, "And even in the short time we've been together," and she just goes, "Oh God," and storms out. And afterward he goes like, "Something of a kinship." I'd forgotten about that line, and I had to pause the movie because it's just he delivers his lines so well. as just a creep and a jerk, but something of a kinship just sent me over the edge because you can see there's so much hope in his face. Something of a kinship. And
yeah, he's such a fantastic little character actor.
Yep. Oh, Aaron Kane, Neil Patrick Harris. I always forget Doogie's name. It's a memorable name. I don't know why. Let's see. I think that's about all I have. So let's run down the comments before we shut her down here. Find something I said.
The only thing, and I don't even know if it was a thing in 1991, but
anything.
there was so much Texas in here that I really wanted some Buc-ee's the whole time I was watching it.
It was like I don't know where is North Texas located? Do you know the university?
Denton.
Denton. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got to drive through there to my sister's house in Dallas all the time.
Gotcha.
And right at their football stadium is the big crossover from one interstate to the other.
Let's see. Here's about where I went off last time. So, yeah, we went down the list of everybody on the football team. It was kind of fun in the comments. Everybody's talking about how who they spotted and all that. Let's see. Good God. Fred's just laying into John, and John's not even here. Fred. Rumor has it John told Harley Jane to fuck off after she refused a margarita. He sent her to side tracks. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's see. After Fred had the better fullback Judd Davies or Judd Apatow, James Boardman, and we did meet James at our CornNation cookout in the rain this year at the baseball game. James says Winona Judd was a bulldozer. James. Yeah, she was a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, Rob Schneider's awesome. Absolutely. Oh, Jason Reeves. Glad you made it back. Off mute. I'm back. Kids suck. Let's see. Angela Matney says at 8:50 p.m. Hi, I'm very late. Angela, glad to have you. Thanks for showing up. Oh, Fred. Many loved it when Loja said Dylan Raiola is our. I'll do it in the Loja voice. Dylan Raiola is our Lord and Savior. Oh God, I hope so. Let's see. Fred hitting on Angela a little. Just kidding. He was just asking what took her so long. Oh, Jason Reeves, Explosions in the Sky was the redonkulous guitar solos in Friday Night Lights. Download that sheet for your working playlist. Even though this isn't a Explosions in the Sky movie, it is one of my favorite bands. I have seen them twice. I saw them once in the Sokol basement, and then another time they played live out in the street, one of those small streets between Radial and Old Maple there, about probably 62nd or 60th or something like that. And they are, if you ever get a chance to see them live, do not miss it. They are fantastic. It's basically four guitars and a drum, and they make it sound just like an orchestra's playing. And yeah, the Friday Night Lights stuff was what kind of put them on everybody's radar. But they're still putting music out. They are unbelievable, and they popped them. There was another guy that did the music for the series Friday Night Lights. But absolutely, Peter Berg was looking for somebody because he produced the TV. He directed the movie and produced the TV show. And he was absolutely going, okay, does this guy sound enough like Explosions in the Sky? And then they did play some actual Explosions in the Sky. But yes, love the shout out for Explosions in the Sky. Note to self, Google Explosions in the Sky, find out if they're on tour. We were talking about Mike Caputo. Fred said, in a long line of centers who people could eat soup off their heads. I think McBride used to say. I could picture McBride saying that. Let's see. Fumbleino is Paul Illuminati Giamatti's older brother. Good one. Oh, there you go. Now I know why you were holding the drinks up. Many wanted to know what Aaron was sipping on the side there. Yeah, and there's the width.
The Costco size bottle.
Yeah, Jason gave us our list of Jason, blink twice if you need help. Jason gave us our list of everybody on the prison team. I never caught it till this time that they rolled the Cowboys off one after another. I went Dorsett, Randy White, and Tall. Okay, I just had a birthday this last Sunday, and just to give you an idea of how old I am, my late uncle Butch, Butch Darnell, took me to my first college football game, the 1973 Peach Bowl, where Randy White was a defensive tackle for the Maryland Terrapins, who were playing his beloved Georgia Bulldogs. And I just have fleeting memories of it, but I do remember, I'd go read those programs front to back. And so then Randy White, first college football game, and now playing a role as Randy White the prisoner, I guess, in our first college football movie and our first movie on All the Right Movies. Tell me everybody gets that. I was really happy. Not to pump my own horns. I mean, mostly I'm a dumbass, but I was sitting there trying for something. I'm looking up. I'm using AI generators to try and figure out a name for the podcast, and I'm getting stuff like Corncob Theater and crud like that. And then I just happened to be flipping through pictures and saw one of Tom Cruise and All the Right Moves, and I'm like, okay, that just wrote itself. And I thought about All the Right Sports Movies. I'm like, people will get it. All the Right Movies, All the Right Moves. We're talking sports. Let's see. It's easier to spit on a long snapper than a short one. We were talking about. We threw in the water boy. Farmer Fran was the man. Who's that? Blake Griffin. It was. Oh yeah. It's like. I'm sitting there kind of fired up at the end. It's funny. You're excited because they won, and all of a sudden there's Farmer Fran flipping those nipple rings around, and I'm like, what in God's name? I almost wonder if the editor's like, yeah, I got the final cut, guys, and like was pissed at somebody. Yeah, here's your final cut, and son of a bitch. Enjoy Farmer Fran's tits. Minnie's out, has to feed the kids. Yeah, Jason Reeves, I agree. Rob Schneider used to be kind of funny. Now a lot of people just don't like him. I found him extremely funny in this. That was like if they always every football comedy have him doing Rob Schneider things on the mic if it's a pure comedy, and I thought that was good stuff.
Another Waterboy crossover.
Yeah, and then I was also a fan of his in what was the Dear Daddy, Big Daddy, with the movie with Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah,
he was like the delivery guy, and just Sandler kind of shit all over him all the time, and that was funny. We need a montage. Woo. What movie was that from? We're singing it. The montage song was called "We Need a Montage." Wasn't that Team America?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that was it.
Team America. There we go. Damn right, Chicago Hope was shit hot. I knew I wasn't alone. I was telling you how Patinkin was a jerk. And their third or fourth episode was wonderful. There was a potential Ebola outbreak, and so everybody who'd been around this patient, they had to basically quarantine all in a hospital room together for like 2 days or something, and then they'd see the symptoms or not. And Patinkin's just pissing everyone off. And at one point he goes, they're talking about, and the pressure just gets to me sometime, and everything, and the lack of sleep. And he does this wonderful, serious monologue, and Adam Arkin was in it. And he's just going, well, and here's the thing. I love the pressure. I love being under the gun and knowing I'm saving lives. And I thrive on it. And he's just zeroed in, makes this great speech about how much he loves the pressure and how much he loves it being uncomfortable because it makes him shine. And he gets done, and Adam Arkin goes, well, that's because you're the one that causes all the goddamn pressure. It's all your fault that we feel like shit. And he just absolutely killed that one. Let's see. I don't know what was said to this. Haha, thanks. I've seen many shit talking. It's mid at best, so I'm good. I'm lying in shit. Wow, many left, and everybody just broke out the bats. Neil Patrick Harris. I already said that. Thank you. Yeah, the football in almost every movie sucks ball sacks. This movie definitely included. The program, cartoonish garbage. Yeah, the program. I thought the camera work was amazing, but the football itself, like you've got your Heisman hopeful is smaller than Doug Flutie, I think. And, but here's the thing, Brian Arsky and Davis, when they're out there, they look like the real deal. Not so much, I forget his name, but the big dude from Twister and ER, and he was like the Southern offensive tackle. All he's talking about is little dogies, and he didn't look like too much of an athlete. Now, the one thing I will challenge Jason, that this was I kind of vacillated. I asked Aaron if he'd seen it or what he thought of it. The original Longest Yard I will put up there with some of the best football, even though they're obviously shooting in like an empty, park or stadium or little stadium or whatever. That football is the best because all those guys are former players or current or former players at the time. You had like Sonny Six Killer, who was like Washington's starting quarterback for 3 years. Burt Reynolds was at Florida State to play football as a running back, and then he blew his knee out and went into acting. And Bobby Bowden always joked that he chose the right career path. But that is Burt Reynolds like whipping 40-yard bombs downfield. And just and then we go and look up those guys out of the credits, which I did once. A lot of former NFLers out there. That one was the real deal. Well, you got Ray Nitschke out there, for God's sake, linebacker. I would be like scared to fucking death if I was in a movie with Ray Nitschke, even if he was alive today. And
100%.
That'd be terrifying. But yeah, I given that okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's okay, Andy. I was a 4-year Regents scholar and headed to the Navy after scoring a 0.25 GPA. God, I love being in a place where my college or lack thereof doesn't matter. Yeah. The hammer pants were big in 91. I remember guys were running around at softball tournaments with those disasters. Yeah, we're getting into fashion now. We're not going to go too far there. Yeah, Jim Kelly and Randy White don't get enough love. The thing about Jim Kelly was he was the first guy where I would kind of saw him, not in person, but just kind of dressed like himself on some show and next to other athletes. And he was big guy. He had to be like 6'2", 220. That sound about right? Maybe taller. But
I think so. I think that's about it.
Yeah, but he's like, come on, Dillos, let's get it on. It's like, Jesus Christ, Jim Kelly's scaring me. Yep, I was a Dorset kid. This was a 91 movie, and I'd worn a number 33 jersey since 6th grade. Jersey wearing. I don't know if you guys remember the book. It was a best-selling book, and then I think it was a TV show for 1 year, and it was called Shit My Dad Says. And the book is just all these hilarious quotes from his dad, who's from Kentucky, but actually a doctor of like nuclear medicine research, and just had the funniest shit. And he wrote really funny. The guy that wrote the stuff was actually super funny himself. He wrote an article once it was called Your Favorite NFL Team Doesn't Give a Shit About You was the title of the article. And he compared it. He told this whole story comparing it to how a buddy of his dad's, who was a doctor, loved strip clubs, went there, fell in love with a stripper after a while, kept coming back, decided to bring her flowers one day and ask her to marry him. And he walks in the middle of the day, and she's giving a dude a lap dance. He doesn't take kindly to the love of his life, giving someone actually doing her job, giving a lap dance. So they said he took a swing at the guy, and the guy picked up a full beer bottle, conked him in the head with it, and knocked him out cold. and he goes like, and his dad was telling him the story. He goes, and son, just so you know that when you get knocked out with a full beer bottle like an asshole, you're just going to look like a guy that got knocked out like an asshole. and so he goes, and he says, the point I was making, son, was that think of strippers like that your favorite NFL team. They're just there to get all the money out of you they can. And if they go to work, if you're their favorite stripper in the world and they go to another town, then she goes to another bar to work at in another town, she's not going to miss you one bit. And he goes, son, that's the NFL. But at the very beginning of the article, he said, he was wearing I think he was wearing a jersey of a defensive back who ended up getting shot. So then he started wearing LaDainian Tomlinson's jersey. And he was saying that he asked his dad about that, and his dad's comment on wearing football jerseys was, son, there's only two people that should wear a football jersey with another man's name on the back. That player himself, and the woman currently fucking that player. So, yeah. If you ever have a chance, read Shit My Dad Says. It's worth it. Dorsett and Reggie Jackson and Billy Olson were my shiat. I don't know if nuclear medicine real. I did. He actually in the book described it. It's like like cancer medicine of some sort. It wasn't the point of the book, but it was a real thing, and apparently this guy was very, very good at it. Well, I say that's about it for tonight. Aaron, any parting words? Oh, I want to do one more thing. One thing. This is one thing I'm going to kind of bring over, and I'm going to ask whoever does the show with me to rank this movie for me. And our scales are from best to worst. And then I'll tell you mine. Number 1 is an Osborne. Number 2 is a Devaney. Number 3 is a Polini. Number 4 I call kind of the Solich/Callahan. And then number 5 is just we're going to go straight to Riley. Some people would want Frost in there. Frost's best team Frost's worst team, I think, would still beat the brakes off Riley's best team, just for having actual conditioning. But it's just the bottom rung is just Riley. How would you rate if you had to rate it on a coach on that 1 to 5? Which coach would this movie be?
Oh, I'd put it somewhere. Cause I'd probably put it somewhere like in the 5-ish range of my football movies that I enjoyed the best. So I'd maybe put it like at a 2, 2.5, 3. So somewhere in the
somewhere between Solich/Callahan
Yeah.
and Polini.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and almost right on. I was just going to give it just a straight Polini. This is a movie this is an absolute movie that's going to go 9-4 over a Big Ten schedule. Yeah, but win as many close games as they lose. It was just enjoyable. It's a really likable cast. It's a really likable cast. Even like the bad guys, we didn't even get like farther down the roster. You have Fred Dalton Thompson back before he decided to get into politics, and he was just always there with that. He was always there with just that southern drawl of dominance and authority. And he was the NASCAR chief in Days of Thunder. We were talking about the Cruise NASCAR movie. He was the one because that's what you are, you stupid apes or whatever the hell he said. He kept like abusing like Michael Rooker or Tom Cruise. But he was in there. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the like we said, the rocky-ish music. They definitely let you know they were in Texas. I mean, I got the feeling that there was just a campus there surrounded by farmland. I guess they did show the campus buildings a few times, but yeah, I felt like you got too far out of Denton. You weren't seeing anything but the corn stalks and the cattle. But that's about it. Oh, wait, Jason Reeves. He goes, "This is a Riley movie. A good time, technically garbage, good football, fuck my admin." I don't think it's a Riley. I can watch this one over and over. Yeah. Here we go. Is this what happens to baseball and softball commentators when the season is over, asking for a friend? Yes, it
100%.
You bet your ass. The only thing is I probably took about 2 or 3 weeks longer getting it going than I should have. But yeah, I don't know about you, Aaron, but when softball ended, I definitely put the keyboard down for a few weeks. But it's good to be back. It's good to be back. And we got a decent number showed up tonight. And hopefully everybody, if the comments are any indication, I think everybody enjoyed themselves. Aaron, any thoughts before we check out here?
I don't believe this was technically the second time I'd watched it in this last weekend, but the first time I didn't really get a whole lot in there because
I believe
I'll leave it.
I
believe it between the three of us.
Shared that with me. Let's just say it was you and a friend and a couple of girls, and just didn't follow along too well. How old were you in 91?
We missed some central plot points. Oh, in 91 I was 6. It wasn't when it came out that the.
Oh, okay, so that was later on.
Oh yeah, DVD, this was probably 2003.
Probably VHS. Yeah, I was glad I found the DVD. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I hadn't watched it in a few years, and it was fun going back to it. It was just I was laughing. I'd forgotten some of I didn't know all the lines anymore, and I'd forgotten a few of the jokes. But yeah, I said at the beginning, I kind of want to go out on this is I really how much I just really enjoyed Robert Loggia by playing it. Him and and Gennaro. Hector Elizondo both played it so straight, and when you play it straight, that's what really makes for a good comedy. You can kind of tell in some comedies, hey, I'm trying to pot that line in, and these guys just killed it as football coaches in a comedy. It was so much fun getting back into that. Well, that's all I got.
Hey, we should announce the next movie so that people can do their homework for next time.
I will. What I'll probably do is just pop the article up. I'm not 100% zeroed in on the next movie yet. I wanted, because I understand this is the maiden voyage, and I'm going to go on and for the probably each episode change this, clean that up, do that. I just hope everybody had a good time. I had a fun time. I had a fun time just going back a few years. I enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for tuning into us. Thank you very much, Aaron, for joining me on the maiden voyage.
Absolutely.
Always love it when we can end up on a pod together. Thanks to Miley once again for doing the intro for me, and you bet I am gonna get her on here sometime against her will. And actually, God, here's a good comment from, it looks like a GM Wrench, and it's the best way. If what I just said was the credits, here's the post credits from Ferris Bueller. You're still here. It's over. And I just remember him going like, go home. That little hand wave. So that's it. Good night, everybody. And see you next week at the same time. And I will post up what we'll be able to do, as Aaron said, so folks can do their homework. Good night, Aaron.
Good night, everybody.
And as always, go Big Red.